Sun's up, energy's up, and so are we.
Greet the day's smile and say, Good morning, city!
This is The Vibe with Malika on Radio 44.
A very good morning. Thank you for joining us right here on Radio 44. And of course, I have a very exciting episode 10 of Leadership Legends by Superbrands. And today, joining me in studio is AQ Hamza, the Group Director for International Trade Relations at Equity Group Holdings. How are you feeling today?
Good morning, Malika. Good morning, everyone listening to this show. Feeling very well, and thanks very much for having me here today.
All right, we're so excited to have you because we're going to jump into lots of chatter about Kenyan entrepreneurs, how you can access new markets, leverage international trade, and of course, Equity Group's role in linking Africa's trade opportunities to, let's say, the Middle East, to Asia, and beyond. You need to stick around right here because some gems are definitely about to be dropped right here on Radio 44. All right, we are getting right into the conversation into episode 10 of the very exciting Leadership Legends by Superbrands. And like I said earlier, AQ Hamza joining me, the Group Director for International Trade Relations at Equity Group Holdings. Now, if I talk about Equity Group Holdings, I mean, we know they're a Pan-African financial services holding company listed at the NSE, Uganda Securities Exchange, Rwanda Stock Exchange. The group has got banking subsidiaries in Kenya, DRC, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, I could go on, and it's doing brilliantly, of course. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. Global trade expanded by about $500 billion in the first half of 2025. That's as per the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. That's a big number. So let's zero in on Africa. The potential for further trade development is immense, I'm sure, AQ, as you can imagine. So Equity has been organizing trade missions regionally, right? We're talking about linking Kenyan businesses with Uganda, DRC, Rwanda, Tanzania. Could you share a success story where, a local business significantly benefited from such a mission?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Malika. So as you said, Equity's footprint in the region is quite large. So we've been doing trade missions for the best part of 4 years now. It started off with taking 300 businesses from Kenya to DRC, to 4 towns in DRC or 4 cities in DRC in 2021. Since then, we've been doing trade missions to all of the markets in which we operate. It's a flagship initiative of the group. This year alone, we took over 50 businesses to Tanzania and Uganda in May. We took over 70 businesses to DRC, primarily to the mining and agricultural towns of Lubumbashi and Kolwezi. And then at the end of November, we're taking about 60 businesses to Rwanda and bringing about 150 international businesses here to Kenya. So that's the context and that's the background. In terms of examples, there are plenty of examples that I can give you. For example, last November, we took a huge Kenyan tea producer to DRC. By May, they've started exporting to the market, and they were expecting shipments to pick up even further as demand picked up. Again, last November, when we took a business to DRC, they won a huge road contract. This year, when we went to DRC, I'm happy to say they joined us from the DRC. They've started running the project. They joined us from the DRC. Again, these trade missions are not just for Kenyan businesses. We get businesses from across the region. We get businesses from Europe, from the Middle East, from India. So when you come on one of these trade missions, when a Kenyan business comes on these trade missions, say, for example, you're going to Tanzania, you're not only meeting Tanzanian businesses, you're not gaining opportunities only to Tanzanian opportunities. You're building partnerships with Europe, from the Middle East, from India, etc. So it's across Africa.
So it's a grand ecosystem.
It's a huge ecosystem.
Wow. And, let's zero in with SMEs, because small and medium enterprises really are the backbone of any economy, of course, especially here in Kenya. Many small and medium enterprises, however, they're struggling to access regional markets. So how does Equity help SMEs, navigate that cross-border trade a little bit more?
It can be a challenge for SMEs. It's the SME segment is is our biggest segment as an institution. And we work very closely with the segment to help them expand their businesses across the region. So in terms of what we do, like I mentioned, we take them on these trade missions. So when they come on these trade missions, they're introduced to government regulators, government institutions, customs, for example, the equivalent of KRA in those markets. So they get to learn to navigate that part of business. Then the other issue that they have is, who do they connect with? Who do they trust? Who do they work with? So as an institution with a huge footprint in the other market that we're visiting, we're able to identify the type of businesses that they should meet, the type of businesses that reflect their asks, and then we make those connections to them. So the way these trade missions also work is when we take these businesses to those markets, we take them on field visits for them to get a look and feel of the market, for them to understand what sort of price points are in the market, what sort of infrastructure is available, what sort of distribution networks are available, etc. So SMEs from Kenya get a comprehensive understanding of how to do business in that market. Secondly, we also offer a series of financial solutions, letters of credit, FX payments, etc. And then we've now recently launched our new or upgraded version of EasyBiz, which was the online platform that businesses use, including SMEs. There's a newer version of it, which is more robust, user-friendly, and provides a whole series of offerings through it, including payroll, account viewing, etc. So it's very easy for an SME through equity to learn to navigate or export into these markets. And what can seem like a daunting task, we make it into bite-sized pieces for them to understand. But also post-trade mission, we have an extensive follow-up process where we engage with these SMEs and say, look, hey, you came to DRC with us, you came to Uganda with us. Now, it doesn't end with those 3-4 days. How can we support you further?
Right.
What sort of financing solutions can we give you? Has that business responded to you? Where's the bottleneck and how can we help you?
That's amazing, because there's so many points, where the nexus has to be so carefully curated. Do you understand the other party? Are your synergies aligned? And all of that. And I think a big role that equity is playing then in that sense allows for these connections to form and continue to foster. So if we talk about some of the greatest challenges perhaps SMEs have that you've noted, what would be one nugget of advice you would give an SME right now who wants to do business regionally? What should they have in place?
One of my biggest advices would be go with a trusted partner, right? So that's what we try and facilitate. You mentioned the footprint. We have 23 million customers across the region. And we have businesses that we work with on both sides. So we understand both sides. We understand the businesses that come from both ends. And as a result, we believe we're in a unique position to facilitate those connections. And also, if there are any issues, to help see how we unblock those bottlenecks, like I mentioned earlier. And also, we have this huge corporate strategy called the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan.
Okay.
Trade and investment is a key part of that, key pillar of that plan. And through that, we try and identify, for example, value chains. We map value chains. We see where SMEs can play a role within those value chains. What are the gaps that they exist? Where are the opportunities for them within those value chains, both here in Kenya and elsewhere. So we're creating opportunities, and we're also bringing to sight opportunities for SMEs that they might not see for themselves.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. We'll carry on this conversation in a few short minutes. We'll switch gears to international investors. Now, what kinds of international investors are showing up in East and Central Africa? We've got the insights coming through. Alrighty, still talking all about international trade relations with Equity Group Holdings. I've got AQ Hamza, Group Director for International Trade Relations at Equity Group Holdings. Now, AQ, we were getting into international investors, right? What kinds of international investors are showing interest when it comes to East and Central Africa, and which sectors do you see them being very much keen on?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Malika. We've got a lot of interest from international businesses from different parts of the globe. Just setting a bit of context, being in this region, we're very fortunate to be amongst markets that are projected to grow quite a bit over the next year or so, and so on. So, for example, Kenya is expected to grow at 5%, Rwanda at over 7%, Tanzania at over 6%, Uganda at over 6%, South Sudan at over 20%, and DRC at over 5%. So we sit in a region that's quite popular in terms of growth projections. In addition to that, you look at Africa as a whole. In terms of international institutions, governments, post-COVID, food security became a huge issue, became a priority for a lot of international partners. Right. Energy security became a huge issue, became a huge priority for international partners. So they all started looking at Africa and how to secure their value chains. And of course, there are ecosystems from other sectors that feed into these value chains. So in terms of interests we've got a lot of interest from the Middle East, a lot of interest from Europe, India is a big market. We host delegations from India that come almost every 2 weeks, for example. Then, of course, from wider Asia, the likes of China and so on, there's been a lot of interest here. In terms of sectors, agribusiness and the ecosystem that feeds into it has been very popular. Manufacturing, energy, healthcare, and then, of course, FMCG or consumer goods. Just to give you a small example, Malika. Now, at the end of this month, from the 26th to the 30th of November, we're hosting our Kenya roadshow. So these trade missions, we call them roadshows. As we go into the other markets, we're doing a reverse of it, bringing international businesses and bringing businesses from the region into Kenya. We expect to have about 150 businesses there. We have about 100 that's already confirmed, out of which over half of them are outside of the region. So it shows the amount of interest that exists out there in exploring opportunities here. Kenya also benefits from the fact that it's a hub for the region, it's a gateway for the region, and it's also a mature market where there's mature infrastructure that's available for international businesses to leverage.
All right, amazing. So how can somebody plug into the roadshow? Where is it happening?
So from the 26th to the 30th, international businesses will be here. On the 28th of November, we are hosting a Kenya Business Forum here in Nairobi. Anyone that's interested, I would encourage them to email us on trademissions@equitygroupholdings.com. And then if they express their interest, if they tell us why they want to participate, etc., we can then plug them into the whole ecosystem of the roadshow.
Brilliant. Now, for many entrepreneurs out there listening, they want to know, how does Equity A identify and B connect local entrepreneurs with global investors for that partnership to then form?
So, Malika, these roadshows for us, they're just not showcases. At the end of the day, the outcome that we want to achieve from that is for businesses to do business, transactions to happen. What we do is essentially we've developed a network of an international network of drivers of trade, as we call them. So these are people who essentially have stakeholders, and their mandate is to identify new markets for their stakeholders. So we work with them, we've built relationships, bridges with them over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, etc. And they're the ones who then drive businesses to come into the markets, come into these roadshows. And before these businesses come on the roadshow, we ask them for details like what sectors are they interested, what opportunities are they looking to explore, what are their ambitions for the market, who do they want to connect with, what size of businesses do they want to connect with, etc. We then, because of our footprint here, we're then able to identify the right sort of businesses for these international businesses to meet. We invite them to participate, the local businesses, to participate in these roadshows, and we do the matchmaking. So essentially, for an international business, even before their planes hit the tarmac here in Nairobi, we've got a list of local businesses for them to meet. And for the local businesses that are looking to come, we've got a set of international businesses that are pre-identified for them. And like I said, reflecting the asks of the internationals so that the chances of them doing business is high. Then, as I mentioned earlier, there's also a lot of effort that goes into following up post-trade mission.
Right.
Trying to see what the bottlenecks are, etc., and unlocking them. For those international businesses that are looking to invest in the market, so not particularly trade, but to invest. For outside of these roadshows, we organize what we call business missions. So, for example, if there's a Kenyan business that wants to go and set up a factory, manufacturing plant, or a certain type of business out there in Uganda, for example, outside of the roadshow, just for them, we organize a tailored business mission where, for example, if it's someone that's looking to go and set up a pharmaceutical plant, wild example, right?
Right.
We would introduce them to distributors in Uganda. We would introduce them to the health ministry, the regulators, etc. So that, again, it helps them make the decision to invest, and more often than not, by the stage they come to us for a business mission, they're halfway through that decision to invest.
Okay.
So one last thing to add as well, we do quite a lot. I touched on value chains earlier. value chains is a key part of the African Recovery and Resilience Plan. So we study and have analyzed value chains where we think international businesses can come and play a role and support the existing local ecosystem. So this is where we map out what the value chain looks like, where the gaps are, and where both local businesses and international businesses can partner to ensure as much of the value addition within that value chain is done in the country. That's one of Africa's or Kenya's biggest problems as well. A lot of primary production is done here, but very little value addition. I'll give you a very quick example when it comes to tea. We've been doing quite a lot of work on tea. Kenya is the largest producer of tea. Sri Lanka, where I originally come from, is a huge producer of tea as well. 60% of Kenya's, 60% of tea produced in Sri Lanka is value added and exported. Only about 15 to 20% is value added here in Kenya. So what's Equity doing on that front? We've done most recently two things. One, we've hosted a few webinars, one of which was where we brought equipment manufacturers that help with the value addition part with the tea producers. Secondly, we've identified, so in Kenya, the tea that's primarily produced is called CTC. In Sri Lanka, the tea that's produced is called Orthodox. Orthodox fetches almost double the price of CTC. So how do we help that transition? So we've brought on a number of equipment manufacturers. We've put in financing solutions so that the local businesses can afford the machines. And then we help them transition some of their, not all of it, but some of their production from CTC to Orthodox to help with that. Then we're also bringing in, we're working with those who do blending, working with those who do packaging, etc., to bring them into the market so that the percentage of value addition that's done in the market increases from 15 to hopefully 60-70%.
Wow, when you said value addition, immediately tea actually did pop into my mind because we produce such grand amounts of it. And then, the branding, the cleaning, all of that becomes something that happens outside and it comes back into this market. And you're thinking, wow, why can't we do more of it right here? Of course, we do have local brands who do it. So just synergizing, and I think equity is playing a big role there. And SMEs, like you said, there are so many facets to it that sometimes you want somebody to hold your hand and say, okay, this is your friend, talk to this person. And that's pretty much where equity has come in. Well, lots of gems as we promised. We're going to carry on this conversation right here on Radio 44 as we dive in to the strategic Dubai office for equity as well. Stay with me. All right, just played you, mashallah, from Ekta Tiger. It seems pretty apt because we're talking all about Dubai right now on this chat. And AQ, as we were talking that a Dubai strategic office is being set up by Equity. Why Dubai? How does it serve as this bridge that is connecting Africa, Middle East, Asia?
So Malika, Dubai, as you know, is a natural financial and logistics hub that connects the world pretty much. And as a result connects East Africa to India, to wider Asia, to Europe, and to the Americas. And they've done quite well in positioning themselves as a global trading hub. Equity, by setting ourselves up in Dubai, we position ourselves at the heart of that trade route, essentially, that connects, like I said, East Africa to the rest of the world. You look at, for example, logistics and what Dubai's ports arm, DP World, have done. They've got, I think if I'm not mistaken, 9 ports just in Africa. They've got ports all around the world. 10% of global trade is routed through a DP World port. And then you look at air connectivity. You look at Emirates Airlines, probably the most well-connected global airline into Africa. So it makes a lot of sense for us to set up our office out there. Of course, the office will facilitate two-way trade, helping Kenyan and East African businesses export to global markets, access global markets through the UAE, through a hub like the UAE, but also help them find the right sort of suppliers, procure from the right sort of suppliers, global suppliers. One key point to note as well is a lot of international businesses have their African headquarters based in Dubai. So by having an office on the ground there, it helps us build relationships, nurture those relationships, and of course, as an extension, help connect our clients to those businesses that are based out there, and from there to the rest of the world. And of course, setting up in the UAE is a strategic signal from Equity as well. It's the first representative office that we have outside of the continent in the Middle East, and I can't think of a better place for us to set up other than Dubai. Then one other thing to add as well is, as you know, remittances or the diaspora is a big business.
Yes.
Or is a big asset, sorry, I must say. For East Africa and for Kenya in particular, the Middle East is a huge region for Kenyan and East African diaspora, and it helps us, one, understand the needs of the Kenyan diaspora out there in Dubai a lot better when we're on the ground. It helps us meet their needs and service them a lot better when we're on the ground, and also to be closer to them and to take home much closer to them.
Amazing. Okay. So for Kenyan entrepreneurs, what specific opportunities then could the Dubai office unlock, let's say for exports from Africa, imports into the region?
Sure. So you must have seen on the news as well, the UAE signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Kenya in January this year. They've signed comprehensive economic partnership agreements with large economies, the likes of India and Indonesia and Malaysia, Australia, etc. These are huge markets that Kenya or Kenyan businesses would gain access to via the UAE. And another example is the UAE or Dubai's got this big strategy called Dubai 33 or D33, where they want to expand their economy by 2033, and as a result, they're setting up a new airport that's going to be 10 times larger than the current airport. And you're wondering, exactly, it baffles you, when you look at how big the Dubai airport currently is. But that's the ambition. And we, through the office, we're giving access to our customers to that ambition, and through that ambition, what they can aim. So, for example, the UAE or Dubai has a target of taking its trade with India to 100 billion by 2033. And that's trade, of course, that's also routed via the UAE. So there's a huge opportunity. There are huge opportunities. Kenya's got a CEPA agreement with the UAE. India's got one. So how do you benefit from that? Through the CEPA, of course, you get either preferential rates or fully duty-free access to goods and services. So that's one.
Okay.
Secondly, Equity, like I said, we've built a lot of international relationships through the travel of our I mean, if you follow Equity social media channels, you will see our group CEO, Dr. James Mwangi, is always out there meeting international partners, etc. So we've built a whole load of relationships with development financial institutions, with export credit agencies. Being in Dubai will help us strengthen them further and also gain access to their network. So if you build a relationship with a French export credit agency, you gain access to the French market, to their ecosystems out there, etc. Secondly, we've also set up a European desk that sits here in Nairobi, that's essentially handled by, or the responsibility sits with a German national who speaks the language, who understands their culture, understands their way of doing business, etc. And it's really helped, and we've set that up in partnership with the German DFI DEG, and really helps international businesses have essentially someone on the ground that understands them a lot better. And that's what the UAE office would do for Middle Eastern businesses. Someone on the ground that helps them understand their culture, their way of doing business, and reflecting their asks and the needs for East Africa.
That makes so much sense, because at the end of the day, when you distill it down, any business is about the relationships that you build and the people. So that is a very big part of it. So finally, as we wrap up AQ, if a business owner listening today wants to be a part of the next trade mission, connect with global investors, what steps should we take?
I would encourage them to email us on trademissions@equitygroupholdings.com. Send us information about your business. Tell us what your interests are so that we can include you on the trade mission. One other thing to say as well is we're very structured in how we work. Like I said, this is a flagship of the group. So next year's trade mission dates are already announced. And part of that is because almost all of our international partners now have the Equity trade missions on their activity calendar for the following year. So we've got the missions, the dates for next year already ready. So email us your interests. We will be going to Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, DRC, and then of course bringing businesses to Kenya next year as well. So let us know, and we'd happily facilitate. Our mission, as you would see when you walk into any room at Equity, is giving dignity, transforming lives, and creating and wealth creation, essentially. And that's what we're doing through these trade missions, wealth creation for our customers, for businesses in the region, and for the SMEs in the region.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and we've had so many insights from you. That is AQ Hamza, Group Director for International Trade Relations at Equity Group Holdings. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Malika. A pleasure to have been here.
Amazing. That is the Superbrands Leadership Legends episode 10. Asante sana for tuning in, for listening, and I hope that you've gained a lot of knowledge because there was so much. But of course, you can always refer back right here to this conversation through our YouTube channel. That is Radio 44 Kenya. Okay, lots more coming through right here on the show. Stick around. I'm Malika. Stay with me.